So here's where we left off. Write the constructor for the word pair list. Constructor takes an array of string words as a parameter and initializes the instance variable all pairs to an array list of word pair objects. A word pair object consists of a word paired with the word that appears later in the array. Okay, so here's a really interesting thing about this. Normally, we're supposed to talk about what for each loop we're going to use. Now, this method creates an array list and fills it, but it's creating it, so it's not actually looping through it. The thing loops through a string array. Since it's looping through a string array, we need for loops. For each loop. Okay? Next, what methods am I going to have to use from the value itself? Well, I'm creating word pair objects, so I'm going to have to use the word pair constructor, which if I go and check the class at the top, requires a string first and a string second. And I'm just adding to an array list. I'm not using one here, so I'll create an array list. And hear the thunder. Use the add method for a new word pair. Now we're adding a new word pair here, which means that I'm going to have to use what I call the short method of adding a new object each time. I take this problem specifically because it requires this method. Now here is where this starts to get tricky. Okay. First step, create a new array list. Loop through the array words, add its string values into the array list. Add them by creating a new word pair. And since this is a constructor, you're actually propagating an array list rather than returning something. This is where you have to look at the private. This is where you have to look at the private variables, in which case you're actually filling this array list called all pairs. So I'm actually going to get rid of that. I don't need to create a new array list. I want to loop through the values, add them by creating a new pair each time to value all pairs. So one of the first things that you want to do in a problem like this is look at your private variables and see what they have. Our array list has already been created in this case. So it should look familiar. For x equals 0, x less than words.length plus. And what this allows me to do is access each of the values in words into the array list. Here is where things get a little bit funky. It says add in words that come about. So for example, in the more the merrier, the gets paired with more, the, and merrier. So it gets paired with all three words that are later on. Then the program advances to more, and it pairs more with the and merrier, with the other two. And then in the last one, it pairs the with merrier itself. So that leads us to two interesting conclusions. Number one, this for loop right here, because it pairs the, more, and the, it doesn't actually pair anything with the last one in it. So I'm actually going to go -1, that it stops looking through it. And what this for loop will do will advance us to the, more, and the. But it doesn't actually add in any of the values that come after it. Okay? I added words that come out later on in the array. So the way that I can do that is by referencing starting point into y equals x plus 1. This for loop is going to be 0, 1, 2. Well, I'm going to start at the word after that, and I'm going to go until words.length. And that's actually going to allow me to loop through and add in the words that are later on in the array list. All pairs is the name of my array list. Dot add. And then I mentioned before, I'm going to need the constructor, which requires 2 strings. And I'm going to need to use the short method to add one each. So I can type new word pair. My first string is going to be words X, and my second string is going to be words Y. Bada bing, bada boom. That's how I do this with the short method. If I were going to do this the long way, if I were going to make a word pair object first, I could do something like word pair W equals new word pair. Pairs.add W. And that would be a way to create my object first before I add a new value into it. But it's nice and easy to make it shorter when I just write new, and then I call my constructor inside of the arguments for it. This problem is so good because it requires you to put a lot of thinking together. You have to find the array list you're filling. You have to use the constructor. You have to use our add function. Then you also have to think a little bit about how to cycle through such that you add in words the other. Let's go to part B. This is actually a little bit simpler. Write the word pair list method num matches. This method returns the number, hence num matches, of word pair objects for which the 2 strings. So I want to check all of the word pair objects. So I'm going to have to write a for all word pairs in the array list. All pairs, I believe, is what it's called. So I'm definitely going to need a for each loop this time since I'm looping through an array list. The next question is, what methods am I going to have to use? Well, if I go and check my word pair class, I want to compare the first and second string, so I can use get first and get second in order to get the 2 values that are in each word pair list. This is an array list of 2 words side by side. Compare them. Now my method is just to count the number in which they match. So I don't need to add, I don't need to remove, I don't need to change in any way. So I don't really need any array list methods. This is a problem that returns an int. So we know good coding is to create the variable we'll return before doing anything else. And call it count, and count equals 0. Return the variable of numbers that match. Return counts at the end. And I've got the hard part, or the part that is most likely to forget done already. I've made my variable that's an integer that's going to count that up. I'm returning my count at the end. Okay, I want to loop through each word pair. I want to check if they're the same. And if they are, add 1 to the count. So my for each loop in words was for all word pairs in the array list all pairs. I would put my object type first, word pair. And I'll call this W this time. All pairs. Again, review the syntax for the for each loop and make sure you've got it right. You got your type of object. You've got the variable name. I'm calling mine W. You've got all pairs. And I want to check to see if the first and second values are the same. And I can use get first and get second to do that. If w.get first, and this is where it gets a little weird. It's a string that I'm comparing to another string. So I have to write dot equals first string. W.get second. Count plus plus. Now I've compared their 2 methods and returned them. On Haiku, the solution exists. In the key in part C. So feel free to take a look at the solution for the bell work or for this problem if you want to take another look. That's really how you start to think about these array list problems and put all of the pieces together for them. You're going to do problem 2 on your own for 25 minutes. A few things to keep in mind. I would review your IP from last night one more time, and then please go ahead and write what you learned. 3 things you want to keep in mind in the space below. For FRQ number 2, you've got 25 minutes. There's a timer available on Haiku where it says 25 minutes to time yourself. You may use notes. You're still required to complete the 3-point structure. You have to grade yourself at the rubric and wait for feedback. The other interesting thing about part A is I think it should take significantly longer than part B. So complete this assignment on Google Classroom, just as you've done for the parts before. You'll take 25 minutes. You'll grade yourself with the rubric and your key, and when you're done. And then when you're done, go ahead and respond to the class email that I've sent out about what you want to review more on ArrayList so that I can give you some feedback and email you back before Tuesday's class. Some of you have questions, or some of you have AP exams coming up on Tuesday. So you'll notice I've already posted the agenda to Tuesday's class, which is just reviewing your feedback on this FRQ assignment and completing mastery topic number 4 for a grade. Your last mastery topic so far. This is really the last assignment you have to finish before the AP exam. And because some of you have AP exams on Tuesday, I think you have AP Latin. I'm actually making it due Wednesday at 5 p.m. So you have an extra day to work on it if you're working on an AP exam that day. But if I were you, what I would go ahead and do is email me on Thursday, get your feedback by Friday morning, see how you did on the assignment. And maybe on Friday, just go ahead and knock this assignment out since it's the last graded thing you're going to do for me this semester. And then you don't have to worry about having to work on a more complicated topic like this once your AP exams begin next week. Folks, I feel like I've been kind of serious today as we worked through this. This is really the end of the learning that we're going to be doing together. I'm really excited to see what you guys can do on these complex problems. I think you guys have come a long way with knowing how to complete array list problems. I really admire the way that you're pushing yourself under what's not an ideal circumstances, right? We don't have the chance to complain about how much array lists suck together in classes. Please let me know if there's anything that I can ever do to help. I've got office hours from 2 to 4 today, and good luck.